started.
Okay. All right. So, good evening, everyone. And just in case you're joining us from a different time zone, good morning and good afternoon. It's a very small crowd here today, but of course, it's a Friday and people might be busy with their work and other things. So, let's get started because you all shown up on time and we don't want to keep you waiting. So this is a session where we are going to go through all the Microsoft 365 Ignite 2021 announcements. So this is going to be completely focusing on the main updates that we think this is something that you should be looking after, right? Of course, there are hundreds of updates that has come up, but myself and Perumal today are gathered here to talk about the ones that really matter the most to you. So we have categorized this into two parts. The first one is going to be as end user updates, which Perumal will be talking about, and the second one is going to be as admin updates, which I'll be talking. Okay. So these are some session guidelines. So the planned duration of this webinar is about 90 minutes because we have a lot to go through. However, we'll try to close it off by 75 minutes max. Okay. Questions, feel free to bring in your questions, but just make sure that you're putting it in the chat window so that at the end of the session, we can go through these questions and we can start answering them. Of course, this webinar is being recorded and we'll be posting this recording in my YouTube channel, and that's the URL for that. And if at all you're not a member of our meetup group, please go ahead and click on that link to become a member of this meetup group because there is a lot that we have planned and we don't want you to miss it off. So with that, I'd like to hand over the floor to Perumal. So Perumal, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ignis. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, I can see your
Ignis,
screen.
am I audible, clear? And
Yes, yes, you're good to go.
thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for showing up for this webinar. And I'm going to, as Vignesh mentioned, I'm going to concentrate mostly on the end user updates in Microsoft 365, various components like OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint, Stream, everything. And then a quick intro about me. I'm the co-founder of GG Technologies Private Limited. We are providing productivity solutions and Microsoft 365 migration solutions for Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Stream, Planner. And I am an Office 365 MVP. And if you have any queries, you can ask me through mail or you can tweet me. So let's jump into the session. So first, we are going to discuss about the updates from Microsoft Teams. So first update is that we already have Rise Hands feature in the meeting. Suppose if you have any questions, you can use this feature, Rise Hands, and so that the speaker knows that you have a question and he can you can unmute yourself and then ask it. So apart from this, now we are going to get the order in which the hands has been raised. Suppose there are 10 people, so the speaker can see who has raised use the raise hands option first, second, third, like that. And then the speaker can take the questions in that particular order. In the screenshot, you can see that in the upper with the raise hand symbol, you can see the numerals like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then uh, when you are creating Teams meetings, you can assign roles in the scheduling form itself, like various roles like co-organizers, presenters, and attendees. The co-organizer is nothing but the whatever capabilities the organizer has, the co-organizer is also going to get. And then the presenters can share the contents, and the attendees can't share the content. He can just go through the meeting, and if he has any questions, he can post it. So by having different roles in the team meetings, we can make the participants to feel prepared. They can feel prepared that he is going to be the presenter. So I need to prepare this kind of these contents before the start of the meeting. I'm going to attend, so I don't have any absence for this particular meeting like that. You can make themselves feel prepared. And then the new Q&A experience. So in Microsoft Live Events, we have an option called Q&A. In live events, you can post a question and then the speakers can take those questions at the end or whenever he wants. He can take up those questions. He can reply there in the Q&A form itself, or he can answer you and then he can dismiss it, or he can mark it as answer like that. Apart from that, we can create some content and pin it in the Q&A section so that those pinned content can be a general guideline or anything. So this Q&A experience was one of the good things in Microsoft Live Events. What Microsoft Teams is doing is that they are taking these features to live team meetings also. So in team meetings, uh, when you are scheduling a team meeting, so this is a team meeting scheduler form. Here I need to click this tab plus button, and then I can add this Q&A app to my meeting. So once I added this one, I get the experience as I shown here. You can see the list of questions has been posted. That has been marked as one of the posts has been one of the question has been pinned, or if you want that particular question can be answered, dismissed, or whatever it can be. Then we are going to get a shared channel. I think many of you already know about the private channels in Microsoft Teams. Using private channel, the scenario for private channel is that suppose you have a large project. In that project, there are multiple managers are involved or leads are there. Suppose if you are going to discuss about some financials or something very confidential thing, you don't want everyone in the teams to have the access to that particular document or those conversations. So in that case, earlier, what we do is that we create another team, and then we decide in that particular team, we make a set of managers alone as a member of that particular team, and then we discuss those kind of stuff separately. So to overcome that problem, Microsoft first introduced private channels. So in the private channel, I can make a subset of existing team members as a member in that particular private channel. So the content, whatever you share, the files, conversations, those going to be available only to the channel, private channel members alone. This is one scenario. Suppose assume another scenario. You are running an R&D team in your company. So you want to speak with all other teams in your company, and you want to know what are the problems they are facing, and you want to provide some solution to them. Or you are building some productivity tools for your internal company use, and you want to take it to all the teams in your company. So as a first step, what we will be doing, my team, my R&D team member is going to discuss with other teams in the company. So what is the problem they are facing, how we can provide solution to them, or how we can be helpful to them like that. So in that case, a set of my team, my R&D team members, and a set of or one or two members from another team going to have some kind of collaboration. For this solution, either they need to add the R&D team members as their team members, or I need to, in my R&D team, I need to add those one or two members, other teams members in my team. So in either way, it is not a good thing for a collaboration. It is not going to be a good thing. Or I can create a new team and make them to collab as a separate team and make those four as a member, and then we can work. But that is also not good thing. Suppose my R&D team is going to work with 15 teams in the company. Then I am going to get a new 15 teams. That is also not a good thing. To overcome this problem, Microsoft is introducing shared channels. Something similar to private channels. In private channels, you can add only members of the existing team as the members of the private channel. In shared channel, you can add anyone across your organization as a member, or you can add another team itself as a member. So if you add another team as a member, all the team members are going to get the access to this particular shared channel. Apart from that, even you can add any other Azure AD B2B tenant users. It is going to be any other external Office 365 tenants. user can be added as a member. So by this way, you can have seamless experience or the collaboration across your organization or between various Azure AD B2B organization also. So in the screenshot, you can see that we have a shared channel that has been given with a different icon. To the right side of the channel name, you can find a different kind of icon. For private channel, you can find a lock icon. For shared channel, it is a different thing. And then I can share that particular channel with a particular user or a team. Apart from that, Microsoft is going to provide option to collaborate across the organization also. Then this is a cool feature, chat with the self. So chat with self means I can chat myself. So it is a space where I can post some quick reminders for myself. I can put some quick reminders, or suppose I want to post something in my team in a particular channel. I can drop the content here. I can drop the content here. I can make the required changes, formatting, everything from the chat itself, and then I can copy paste it and post it in the required channel. Then the chat density. This is also another cool feature. Here in the left side, you can see the current chat density. In the right side, you can increase the chat density up to 50%. So you can have a lot, in a single screen, you can view a lot more conversations, which avoids unnecessary scrolling up and scrolling down. And then delayed delivery. This is also a cool feature. I like this feature. Uh, in Outlook, you get this option, even though you receive a mail, and then in Outlook, some people prefer not to respond or reply back on Saturdays, Sundays, or on holidays. So what they will do is that they will draft everything, and then they do the delayed delivery. The original reply will be sent back on Monday, not on particular Saturday or Sunday. He will do everything, but it won't be the message won't be delivered till what he has specified. The same kind of feature is going to be available in Microsoft Teams also. Even you can schedule it to send it in particular time of a particular day or tomorrow or a custom time, whatever you want, you can set it. And then chat with personal account. So you may be aware that Microsoft Teams can be used something similar to WhatsApp or something like that also. They have pushed, Microsoft has been pushing for personal collaboration space also, Microsoft Teams. So suppose if the users have created a personal account for Microsoft Teams, this personal account and regular Office 365 Teams user can make conversations using the external users or the personal accounts email ID or phone number. He can search and make the conversations. Of course, there will be admin controls to restrict this part. And then colleagues time zone. So if you are having if your team has people all over the time zones, this feature is going to really help you. So when you click on a particular person's icon, you will be shown with the contact card. In the contact card, you can find the time zone also. What is the current time he or she is working on? So this will be really helpful to schedule meetings, or if you want to speak with them or have a quick chat, whatever it is going to be really useful in those kind of cases. Then this is the new search experience. I think this has been mostly rolled out already for many of the tenants. So earlier, the team search experience was not a good thing. It was terrific. Now you can see, you can have sections like messages, peoples, or files. You can categorize the search result. And then if it is file, you can have some more additional filters also. or sorting options also. Similarly, these kind of filters are available for messages also. And then this slide explains about integration of Microsoft Teams with Dynamics 365. Till this point, uh, as per my analysis, there is no good, great integration of Microsoft Teams with the Dynamics 365. Even my company is personally having this problem. I am facing personally this problem. There is no proper collaboration of Dynamics 365 with the Teams. I can't insert Dynamics 365 sales record in a team conversation or anything. Nothing can be done as of today. So Microsoft is going to bridge this gap. We are going to get the D365 Microsoft Teams integration. Apart from that, in D365, if you are editing a sales record or whatever it is, opportunity record or anything, whatever it can be, there they are going to give an option like chat now. If you click that particular icon, the Teams pop-up will be shown, and then from there you can chat with anyone across the organization for a quick clarification or anything. Uh, so apart from this, here in this GIF, you can notice that this is a team conversation. And then in this team conversation, you can notice that the user is trying to insert a D365 sales record, or in this case, it is a opportunity record. And then he can send this opportunity to anyone, and then he can even make the changes to the opportunity directly from that card itself. So in background, Microsoft is going to use Microsoft Loop that I will be demoing in after a few minutes. So Microsoft is going to use Microsoft Loop to integrate D365 with Microsoft Teams. This is one of the cool things. If it is going to be rolled out, it is going to be a great thing. Many are waiting for this kind of integrations. Then this is an immersive meeting called Mess in Microsoft Teams. It is 2D or 3D interaction. Uh, you might have heard about the headsets Microsoft has released or their partners have released um, to have a 2D, 3D experience with interactions in the team meeting participants. Microsoft demoed during Ignite. Microsoft demoed this feature. I think an MNC called Accenture, they are using this feature for new joinee onboarding. So everyone will be having some kind of this cool headsets, and then they will be walking around, walking them like making them to they make them to seated in a conference room where some guidance has been provided, and then they are walking around to various sections to ask questions, or they can interact with themselves like that. Those kind of stuff they are providing it with Mess. And then Microsoft Loop, let me even though. Okay. Few years back, Microsoft introduced a new kind of component called Fluid Framework. So using Fluid Framework, the idea behind the Fluid Framework is that you can design something. It can be a table, or it can be a task list, or it can be some rich text editor with some content, whatever it is. You design it, or prepare the content of, or you are preparing a task list, whatever it can. You are preparing a task list. That component, whatever thing that you have prepared, it can be embedded across various components or various components in Microsoft 365 like Word, OneNote, Teams, OneDrive, wherever it is. For example, you have prepared a task list in OneNote, and then you are copying that or you are embedding that fluid component in Teams or in email, and you are sending it to someone. If someone is going to add some other things or editing the task list, whether like making additional tasks or changing the progress of the task, whatever it is going to reflect in all other places wherever it has been shared. So that is with that idea, Microsoft introduced a fluid framework. Now, using that framework, Microsoft released a new live components called Microsoft Loop. So as of today, they have introduced Microsoft Loop or these live components in Microsoft Teams alone. Going forward, this is going to be available in various places like Outlook, OneNote, everywhere. So as of today, it is available in Microsoft Teams alone. So you can see the fourth icon. When I click that, I can insert any live component or Microsoft Loop like checklist, table, task list, anything. Now I'm going to insert a table. So since I have not sent this table to anyone, it is showing in the draft mode. So I am adding the columns. So if I want to mention someone, I can easily use that symbol and then mention someone. Here in this case, I'm mentioning Ignesh. And if I want to add a date or anything, I can easily do that by clicking the slash symbol. Once I click the slash symbol, I get various options to insert date, image, another checklist, whatever it can. In this case, I want to insert a date. So I'm doing this. So I have added some task and then I can set the permission for this task to this table itself, to this table, this live component. That is, anyone in in my organization can view this, or people in this chat alone can get access to this, or how to a specific person like that. I can set the permission levels. So now I'm sending it to Vignesh. Before sending, you can notice this. This is in draft state. Now I'm sending it to Vignesh. So this has been sent to him. And if I click this, I can see who has access to this particular live component. Now Vignesh can directly edit again from the chat itself, the original chat replay itself. Or if he wants to add some notes, he can do that. Can do that. So automatically this thing, whatever changes Vignesh or me doing, it will get synchronized and everyone will have a same view. In backend, actually, the Fluid framework files will be stored in the user's personal OneDrive folder or in the SharePoint. If you are using in Teams channel, it is going to be shared in the or stored in the SharePoint. So apart from this, I can copy the link and then I can send it to anyone I want. And then here Microsoft will provide an option to pin this live component. So once I pinned it, it will be shown in the top next to files, organization, activity. I will get an option. It will be added as a tab. I can click that and then I can directly go to the particular live component. So as I mentioned earlier, right now it is available only in Microsoft Teams alone. But the idea is that it is going to be available in all other places also. For example, I can copy this link and then once I paste it in OWA or Outlook on the web, this loop component or this live component will be embedded automatically there. The receiver can automatically make the changes or anything from the mail itself. He no need to replay for the original mail. He can do without any replay. He can make the required changes. Whatever changes he does, I can see the changes will be available in the Teams also. So you can assume this as a pointer and you see. So you have a data stored in one place, but it is referenced in all other places across multiple places. So this is all about Microsoft Loop. And then now about Microsoft Editor. So earlier Microsoft Editor has been released in the build or previous Ignite, I don't remember. That in Microsoft Editor, we get additional improvements like uh, grammar check, spell check, at mentions in the email. Mainly this Microsoft Editor was first rolled out in OWA. Later, it was integrated in other places also. Now they are improving this Microsoft Editor with context taking. For example, here you can notice that in an OWA mail draft page, you can notice that uh, if I want to attach or speak about a particular file, the context editor automatically show the files that has been shared between the sender and the receiver based on the previous conversations they had in Teams or the file shares they have done in OneDrive or through SharePoint, whatever it is. Based on those in kind of information, it will automatically show the list of attachments that I can send to the recipient. Apart from that, uh, if you want to schedule a meeting or anything, this slide will show you. Suppose if you want to schedule a meeting, it will what Microsoft Context IQ will do is that it will use the Microsoft Graph and it will search for or it will query for 3 times between the sender and the recipient. So in this case, you can see that it will automatically suggest some available times. So this kind of improvements that we are going to see in the upcoming year, that is in 2022, we can see this kind of improvements in OWA. And once it is available in OWA, I expect that this will be available in Teams and in all other places also. And then now we are going to discuss about improvements in Microsoft List. So the major update according to me is in Microsoft List, I can add a lookup columns. Also modern lookup columns have been announced. And then this is also a cool thing. We can have rich text editor in Microsoft List. So I can make some formatting or coloring, highlighting, whatever it is, everything is going to be available. Apart from that, we get undo, redo buttons also. Control Z or Control Y shortcuts will also work for this. So a cool rich text editor with undo, redo option. And then this is also a cool thing. In the screenshot, you can see Microsoft List has been organized as in the Kanban board view. So Microsoft List is going to get this board view similar to in Planner. In Planner, you can create various buckets in progress, completed, not started, to do like that. You can create buckets and then you can move the cards in between the buckets. Similarly, in Microsoft List also you can create various buckets, and then all the list items will be shown as a card, and then you can move the cards between the various buckets. But I'm not sure on moving this card between the buckets will change the particular field or not, or any rule can be created for that. But I'm not sure on that. I'm also curious on that part. Now, another thing is that Microsoft List also going to get the same kind of sharing experience that we have across in OneDrive or SharePoint. So I can share a particular list using a link like after anyone with a link can access this list or make changes, or people in that particular organization can alone make the changes, or uh, copy the link and send it to anyone who can do that like that. Whatever we do for files, we are going to get the same kind of sharing experience for Microsoft List also. And then in SharePoint, in SharePoint, in the SharePoint app bar that is in the left side, you can notice that we have a plus button to create something like site or document or anything, whatever it can be there. We are going to get an option to create list also. And then in the SharePoint app bar, we get us another section called My List, where I can see all the lists I have access to that, to the particular list. This is also a cool thing. Suppose if you are using your OneDrive sync client in your Windows machine, you get the offline editing access for Microsoft list. So even if you are offline, you can edit the lists, and once your computer connected online, it will be synced back to the cloud. So since it is cached to offline, uh, this is going to be fast. If you are making any changes or anything to the list, it is going to be pretty faster compared to earlier. Since the contents has been cached, it is going to be faster. So we are getting both offline and faster access to the list, Microsoft list. Now we shall discuss about the OneDrive updates. So in OneDrive, the first thing is that with Windows 11 that Microsoft have released in October, I think. So in Windows 11, if you have enabled, if you have signed into OneDrive sync client, what you will be getting is that you can, by default, you will be getting a share option in the Windows File Explorer itself. A share option directly in the Windows File Explorer itself. And then this is a cool thing. To photo editing experience or the features going to be available in OneDrive itself. Like I can crop and trim the photos manually, or I can make some adjustments like color, light, brightness, whatever contrast. Those kind of stuffs I can do easily from the photo editing experience in OneDrive. Or even I can apply some filters also to the images from OneDrive itself. This is for both Windows and Mac OS. Suppose if you are not using OneDrive sync client, you can install this OneDrive as a PWA. Suppose as of today, suppose if you have opened Teams in from the browser, teams.microsoft.com, there you can in the browser that window, the address bar, you can notice a button called Install App. If you click that tab, what it will be doing is that it will add some shortcuts in the taskbar. So if you click the taskbar, it will directly load that page as a separate window, and then you can use that as a separate app. So this kind of feature is going to available for OneDrive also, both in Windows and Mac OS. And then Universal Print is already integrated with OneDrive, but now in but in this Ignite, they have made it as GA. And then if you are in Teams, we are going to get this feature in Teams. The files are already might have been shared with you through channels or whatever places. From that shared files, we are going to get an option called Add to OneDrive. So if I click that particular button or thing, it will be directly added as a one of the thing in my OneDrive also. This is known folder move for Mac OS users. Earlier, for Windows users, we can secure folders here like a desktop, documents, photos, or those kind of things we can uh, secure with OneDrive sync link. The same feature, they are making it available for Mac OS users also. And they have Microsoft has mentioned that Monterey, they have mentioned a particular Mac OS version called Monterey. So people using that particular version of Mac OS users can get this feature. And then this is also one of the things that we are using with the Windows Sync Client, files on demand. This is the same feature is going to be available with Mac OS users also, so uh, they can differentiate files shown as online only or downloaded, or how whatever it is, whether the particular file has been downloaded locally or it is available online alone. And if he is going to click or make available, always make that particular file as always available. Whatever actions we do in Windows is going to be available in the Mac also. And then in OneDrive Web, you can add the folders that you frequently access as a uh, as one of the quick access. That is basically you can pin those folders in the quick access section, so that you see easily you can navigate those places or the folders easily from your OneDrive web. And then you can move shortcuts from one OneDrive file, sorry, from your My File sections to any other OneDrive folder. So this change, quick permissions and link settings, this is a change regarding the permission section. So as seen in the screenshot, you can enter a name of the person with whom you want to share the file. And then besides that, you can specify the permission level also, whether he can edit or he can do only read only, or how it can be. Everything from the same single page itself. Now I think we need to go, we need to click on another button which will open up another window. There I need to make some changes like that. Now everything in a single page, single window itself. In the footer also we are getting the same kind of experience, copy link. And then suppose if I have any file in the OneDrive and I want to see for what are the permissions or how I have shared the particular files with others. So, uh, so I can directly manage the access for that particular file. I can easily see with whom the file has been shared. Or if the files has been shared as a links, I can see that too. Or if the file has been shared to groups, I can see that too. Apart from that, I can change the permission settings, or if I want to remove the link sharing, I can do that. If I want to change the setting from edit to view only, whatever it can be, everything can be done from the single place itself. So the improvements regarding planner. So for planner, they have announced the roadmap. So two things they have mentioned. Both the things are going to be available, I think, in February 2022. One is a recurring task. The recurring task is one of the mostly asked feature in user voice. Many have been asking for this. So I want to create regularly every month or every week. I want to create a particular task for a team meeting or anything. Those kind of stuff we can do it now with the recurring task. Apart from that, in the planner tasks description or notes, there we are going to get the rich text editor feature. Uh, Apart from making the text formatting bold, highlighting, or whatever it can be, a regular uh, text formatting, we can copy paste an image also in the notes section. So whatever image that you have pasted in the notes section will be added as an attachment also. So only these two have been announced for Microsoft Planner. This is related to project on the web. I think many of you, I don't know if you have heard about project on the web. So if in project, you might have already heard about Microsoft Project, but that is an enterprise project management tool. It requires a lot of study and understanding to use that tool. Later, they have introduced Microsoft Planner, but but in Planner there is no learning curve or anything. Very easy to use one. So inspiring and using on seeing the Planner adoption, Microsoft introduced a new component or a new product called Project on the Web. It is something similar to Planner, but in Project on the Web, you get the Gantt feature and the roadmap features. So all the additional enterprise features, custom fields, everything are available in the Project on the Web, but those features are not available in the Planner. So they are going to introduce Teams app for the better integration of Project on the Web with Teams. And then they have announced the roadmap for project for the web also. Uh, you can add checklist and label to the task. You can add guest users to the project on the web, and the guest user going to get the same kind of access and experience uh, as of the internal users. To use project on the web, you need additional license type called project plan 1 or plan 2 license uh, as of today. But in Ignite, what they have announced is that suppose if you are a Microsoft, if an user has any Microsoft 365 license, and if he has some task assigned using my project on the web, then he can get access to those tasks alone. He can view the task and then he can make the changes. So these users don't need to have a additional project licenses. So if you are using Microsoft 365 license, you can use these features. So yeah, manager can have a project license P1 or P2. He can create, plan everything on the project on the web, and then he can assign it to the other users. The other leaf level or no level users, no need to have any project licenses. He has just a Microsoft 365 license. He can use the project on the web. And then in Planner, we get the charts, various charts, representation of the task that is going to be available in the project for the web also. Now we are going to see the improvements or the announcements mentioned for office.com. So office.com is the main homepage for Office. There, the major change is that recommended actions. In the screenshot, you can notice as first section called recommended actions. There you can find something. Suppose if you have been admins and in Teams, then you get the particular card to replay for that particular conversation. Or if your meeting has been scheduled for you, then it will show the join meeting button. Or if you have received something in your email, and if you want to tag that as an to do as a personal task, you can do that using that add to do button. So apart from the recommended actions, you have quick access section in the just below the recommended actions. There you can find all the files that has been shared with you or based on conversations or whatever interactive points that you have with the other users or teams, all the documents will be shown to you. And then you get the customers to filter those particular the files also. So once you log into office.com, you get a new section in the app bar called My Content, where I can find all the content shared to me. As mentioned earlier, it can be shared through sharing in OneDrive, SharePoint, or Teams, or Team Conversation, whatever it is. Apart from that, you can customize you can filter or search up for a particular file keyword using some specific keywords, anything you can do. And then you get an infinite scroll bar. So if you keep on scrolling down, you will continuously get the recommended files there. Then the actions for all the files we are going to get. So using this quick action, I can create a task in To-Do, or I can create a calendar or a Teams meeting, block my time in my calendar, or even I can convert that particular file into a PDF. So these kind of quick actions we are going to get it in Office.com. And then in the same office.com hub, you are going to see an option called create with the plus symbol in the app bar. If I click that particular button, create button, I will be shown to create various document types. It can be an Excel, PowerPoint, Word, or it can be a SharePoint list or a page or a planner plan. Whatever it is, it will show various options to you. You no need to jump to the particular app. If I want to create a new plan, I don't want to go to the planner and then click the create a new plan. I can directly do it from the create section itself. And then below the create section, it will provide you the various recommendations. Like if you want, based on some templates, if you want to do, you can create. For example, here you can see for calendar, they have provided a template called calendar. It will show the template on various content type like SharePoint, Excel, list, whatever it is, everywhere it is showing. Here, apart from the recommended here, it will show the official documents also, official recommended branded documents also. The templates will be shown. So the users can confidently use those assets, branding assets. So now we shall discuss about the announcement for Microsoft Teams Stream. So Microsoft Stream users going to get a new homepage called stream.office.com. There it will show the recommended videos and then the list of videos. And then here you can search, filter for that particular videos. So now the new search has also been announced. So if you make any search, it will search for that particular keyword in the metadata of the stream video. Apart from that particular metadata like a title, description, it will search for the transcript also, and it will show in the search result with some snippet where this has been mentioned like that. And then we are going to get screen recording option also. So what Microsoft thinks is that it is going to be hybrid work model for most of the places. So they are anticipating, Microsoft is anticipating that there will be an explosion of videos going to be used. So they have announced with this in mind, they have announced new features. One of the thing is screen recording. So from the web itself, from the office, from the stream homepage, I can just click the create new video. It will provide an option to make the screen recording with or without camera, voice, everything. So I can quickly make a recording and then it will be automatically get stored in the stream easily. And then you can edit the title and everything there itself. And then they have announced a new video player for stream also. Here you can notice that we get the option to change the playback speed. And then in the top right, you can notice that they have shown the things like table of content, transcript, everything. So the basic idea is here is what Microsoft termed is this as a video as a document, VAAD, video as a document. So this is the term they have coined. So basically you can navigate automatically Microsoft Stream will create a table of content for this video, and then you can navigate between various sections easily. Suppose if I click something in the table of content, it will take me to the particular point in the recording, and also it will show the transcript also with the speaker annotation. So this is the thing I have mentioned earlier. So in the transcript, we get the speaker annotation also. So distribution channels. So Microsoft is going to provide a new web part for SharePoint. Using that, they can embed Microsoft Stream videos in the pages, and it will be perfectly aligned with the various text shown in the pages. Now we shall discuss about the announcement for Yammer. First thing is that we already have Microsoft Viva. So all the in the Viva connections going to include the feeds from the Yammer conversations. It can be announcement made in all company or the communities that you follow or the peoples that you follow or from your favorite groups. And then in Yammer, we are going to get a home feed where it will provide the suggested communities. In official community, in the screenshot, you can notice that there is a blue tick mark with a patch symbol. So admin can mention that particular community as an official one like that to give confidence for the community users to interact in that. And then if you are posting some questions in the Yammer, you can upvote the answers. And then they are making improvement to the Teams app for the communities. So what they have mentioned is that it will, compared to the earlier one, the new version going to have very good native feel as in Teams. Then we are going to get nested replace in Yammer. I think nested replace is already rolled out. It is I have seen the nested replace in some of the demo tenants. And then both the Viva and Yammer topics are going to be integrated. So since the Yammer topics and the Viva topics are all integrated, if you go to the Viva topic pages, there for the Q&As, it will show the feeds from the Yammer, wherever the permission you have. Suppose if you want to raise any questions, you can directly from the Viva topics page, you can raise a new question. It will be routed directly in a particular community or particular user in Yammer. So the another thing is that in Yammer, if you have posted something and if you want to, when you are editing the particular post, you get the option to add attachments also. So earlier I have mentioned Microsoft is giving a push for stream. They are expecting there will be more videos going to be used or created from app from Office, and they have coined a new term also, video as a document. To help you further, what Microsoft done is that they have acquired a new tool called Clipchamp. I don't know if you have heard about the tool called Camtasia. It is one of the popular video editing tools. Similar to that, Clipchamp is also one of the video editing tool, and Microsoft have acquired that. So in Clipchamp, you can edit the timeline. You can cut the particular timeline, make all the edits, and if you want to incorporate some soundtracks, you can do that. And then you get the options to make a screen record with the camera, and then you get stock free images that you can use in your video. Then they have provided a list of templates also, everything they have provided. So, as of now, I don't know with what licensing Microsoft is going to give. As of today, when I have made some research, it is available as Windows 10 app. So if you go to your Windows store, from there you can download this and you can start using it freely. But only restriction I see is that we will get when we download the created video, when we get the final production video, it will be in the resolution of 480 pixel alone. So that's the only restriction we have. But there is no information has been provided by Microsoft with what kind of Office 365 license we get the complete features and everything. I am not sure on that part. There has been no announcement on that part. Thank you, guys. So that's all from my side. Vignesh.
Okay, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Vignesh.
Perfect. So those were a lot of updates from an end user standpoint. So as we said, folks, so we are focusing only on the things that matter the most. So of course, there is a lot, but these are the things which you would be expecting. So the same goes on for admin updates also. I'll begin by talking about the SharePoint online admin updates first. So the first thing that we want to bring up is the channel site management in SharePoint Admin Center. So what this means is we all know that for the way Teams is structured, that for every single channel that you create, a folder gets created in the document library, and that's how it works. So when I say channel site management, these are mainly for the private channels that you would create. So as we all understand, when you create a private channel, it would spin up a fresh SharePoint site altogether. So now what Microsoft is giving you is you get an option to also manage those channel sites as well from the SharePoint admin panel. And this Jiffy that you see here, right, it should give you, take a look at this. It clearly shows you that you could manage those two private channels, which are a part of the main team. Okay, this is a capability which is coming now. Then we also have something called a SharePoint tenant rename, one of the most expected features for many, many years. So if at all you've been in this Office 365 space for quite some time, we all know that this was something that we were looking for, specifically if you're going through a merger and acquisition or divestiture, right? So this was something that we all wanted. So currently this feature is in public preview. And if at all your tenant has lesser than 1,000 SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts, then you can take advantage of this. So of course, Microsoft is working on introducing this capability for tenants which has a larger number of SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts. But at this point, it is for something which has less than 1 lakh SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts. But the capability is available as of today. Okay, so this is what you would do by renaming. Now, if you take a look at the screenshot from Contessa.com, with this capability, you get to rename it to a new org with a new domain name called as Fabricam on Microsoft.com, right? And earlier in the past, this was not something that was possible, even though if you change the domain name, still the URL won't change, but this is there as of now. Now, the next thing, so that's all from a SharePoint standpoint. Now, on the next pillar that I want to focus on is about security and compliance. So I'll talk about security and compliance related to SharePoint, Exchange, Teams, and OneDrive. So most of the capabilities which Microsoft has introduced this time for security and compliance is closely tied with your sensitivity labels, because around last Ignite, you might have noticed that Microsoft has made a lot of investment inside AIP. So they came up with a new framework called as MIP, granular, conditional access policies, and a lot which is coming into picture, right? So now what they're saying is you could secure your internal and external collaborations. So what we mean by that is, now say today maybe you have a sensitivity label called as confidential in your.
Vignesh, we lost you. Vignesh, we are unable to hear you.
Sorry, I'm back. That was a network problem. Can you hear me out?
Yeah, yes.
Sure. So what I was talking about is when you are applying a sensitivity label. Now, based upon that sensitivity label, you get granular sharing controls. Now, what I mean by that is just take a look at this, right? And here, that is a sensitivity label called as general, which is applied, which means when you click on this document, you get to share this file with a group of people, right? So people completely with this link can edit. Whereas when the sensitivity label is applied as confidential, you get much more granular controls wherein you have to choose those specific people with whom you need to share. So once again, at times you might be applying the right sensitivity label, but you might end up oversharing. So these controls come into picture to take care of that. Right? Then we also have auto labeling enhancements. So if you're somebody who has purchased the AIP Plan 2 future, you know that you could use auto labeling. Now, rather than you manually labeling the files, you could train the system so that it goes and it starts auto labeling the Office documents. Okay. Now, in the past, this was applicable only for selective sites wherein you need to go to the admin panel and you need to choose on which site you want this capability to be enabled. But Microsoft has introduced this now to all the SharePoint sites and to all the OneDrive accounts. Okay. So if there's something that you are looking in the past, you can go ahead and apply this to just not selective SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts, but to all SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts. Next, we also have the SharePoint syntax support. Now, we all have a very good understanding of what SharePoint syntax is. If not, this is something where you can bring in your advanced AI and machine learning to amplify human expertise and automate content processing. So basically, it is all about bringing AI and machine learning to classify the document. Now, when SharePoint syntax itself was introduced about roughly a year and a half back, this sensitivity label support capability was also there in preview. Now, when you're classifying the document, you also get an option to choose what label it should have. And once you do that, so any document which has the similar content would the same kind of labels would be applied to those kind of documents. Now, take a look at this image here. Now, sensitivity label by the name confidential is applied to this model. Okay, you're just doing it and just apply model. And now any document which has a similar kind of thing, the same kind of label will be applied anywhere. So it is just not about extracting the document. You also get to apply the labels on top of it. Okay, that's what this basically means. Next, we have data access governance. So this was something which was introduced, if my memory serves me well, around last Ignite. Now, in the previous slide, I was speaking about using auto labeling capabilities, right? Wherein you don't need to go ahead and label a file based upon how you train it. Now, say for instance, if a given Word document has more than 10 credit card numbers in it, right? Then the system understands that, okay, I need to apply a highly confidential label to this or any kind of sensitive label that you might have in your environment. But sometimes it so happens that it could be content which has high sensitive data in it, but maybe it just applied a general label on it. That could be always a mismatch, right? Now, this data access governance is a one-stop shop wherein you can take a look at everything. Now, take a look at this particular screenshot here, right? This site is called as investment banking, and it has up to 692 sensitive documents. But still, the site sensitivity has been kept as general, and it is allowed for external sharing. This is something which is not right, right? So you get to have a complete insight or an overview of what kind of labels are applied, how many sensitive documents are inside there, and whether the external sharing policy has been applied correctly. So if it is not, then you can always come back and change it. So this is the capability which your data access governance offers you. Then we also have something around your information barriers. Of course, I'm not really sure whether a lot of organizations use this capability simply because this is something which is very specific to financial organizations or companies who want to have a more secured way of having communication and collaboration. But there are some new announcements that has been made for information barriers also. So firstly, in order to make this very simple, because the architecture for this or going ahead and designing information barriers was quite complex. So Microsoft has made it very simple, where they said we are going to introduce 4 modes. Okay, and these 4 modes are going to be open, implicit, owner moderated, or explicit. Now, based upon what kind of mode that site will fall under, you can just simply go ahead and apply that mode to it. Okay. And second, Microsoft is also introducing this information barrier inside cards in the SharePoint Admin Center so that you can know how many sites have the segments. There are very good insights that you can get from these cards for your SharePoint sites as well as for your OneDrive also. And third, one of the things with your information barriers is, right, when you're applying permission to a SharePoint site, you might as well also wanted that it so happens that you also want the team or the Microsoft 365 group which is connected to the SharePoint site, the membership should apply to that as well. Okay, now that was not there in the past. Now this is also a capability which Microsoft has brought in. So what this means is maybe you belong to that particular segment and you have been given permission to that SharePoint site. So in addition to this, you also get access to the team which is part of that SharePoint site and also to the backend Microsoft 365 group. Uh, Next is secure access with contextual and continuous policy evaluation. Now, this might look like a lot, but let me, just simplify this for you. Okay. In a few slides back, I was talking about bringing in MIP labels, your sensitivity labels, and tying that with conditional access policies. Okay. And this was something which was introduced around last Ignite. So here, what happens is, right, we can have one more level of authentication or one more level of security. So I'll just quickly bring up my screen here. Now, if you take a look at this, right, and if you're somebody who has created a sensitivity label, you would go through all these options in the past, right? You would create a label. You would name this label. You would choose where you want this label to be applied and what do you want to do, or what should be the encryption for this label, right? And what kind of permissions you want to apply for this label. And if at all you have the AIP2 capability, then you can have auto labeling. And this is where you can take the advantage of bringing in conditional access along with MIP label also, right? And I'm just going to choose. So this is one new capability which Microsoft has introduced. So now let's say the site that you're trying to access has a high sensitivity label applied to it, then you would get one more prompt saying that, hey, the site that you're trying to access has a high sensitivity label, so you might have to put in your MFA. If it is a general label, maybe you're trying to access the site outside of your office network or somewhere else, you would simply because the site has a high sensitivity label, you have granular conditional access policies now wherein you would be prompted for one more level of authentication such as your MFA. But if it is just a general label, you can just put in your username and password and get it. Okay, so this was something which is really good, and at least most of the security customers that I'm working with in from the Microsoft 365 standpoint, they were looking for something like this. And here is just a small demo on how this is going to work. Just take a look at this, say next. They're going through the same process which I was just showing you, and this is what it is. So you can choose that, hey, with this sensitivity label, I need a MFA prompt. And when this person is trying to sign out and when he's trying to access it from a different place, right, just goes in. Yeah, he would get an additional MFA to put in simply because the site has that sensitivity label applied to it. So the next thing is we also have continuous access evaluation in SharePoint and OneDrive. Okay. Now, what happens in the past is most of the time you might be getting a call from your security team saying that some anomaly activity is happening by this user. We want to go ahead and revoke his sessions or sign out his sessions. Now, this capability Microsoft introduced roughly around a year back. But the problem is when you're doing it, there is an expiration. It takes at least 60 minutes for all his active sessions to be signed out. So that is where your continuous access evaluation comes into picture, because you don't need that expiration time of 60 minutes. It is just so real time that it just so happens. This is what I'm talking about, right? You come in here, you want to sign out this user, you would sign out. And in the past, what used to happen is you'll get a message saying that if he'd signed out, but it is going to take some time for this user to sign out of all the sessions and all his devices, wherever this user logged in. So now this waiting period is not there. And that's what this means. Yeah. Now let's focus upon the Office 365 Admin Center updates. So there is going to be this software updates. This is already there in your M365 Admin Center. This card did exist, but now what they're going to show is, how much devices in your tenant is missing the Office security update and what kind of vulnerabilities are there if at all you're not going to patch update. This is really good for specifically somebody who's coming from a device management background, right? Because they are the ones who are in possession of taking care of all the updates and stuff. So they can always come here and have a good overview of what's happening with the devices that is part of your tenant. Then we also have simplified view. This is nothing but a simplified view for your Microsoft 365 Admin Center, right? And this is mainly for tenants, which has a small for SMBs, which are into Microsoft 365 Basic or Business Premium, those kind of customers. Because most of the time, the people here they have to do multiple things, right? They are not a full-fledged hardcore somebody who's coming from an M365 background who has been doing that for a very long time. right? So Microsoft wants to come up with a very simplified view for them so that they don't spend a lot of time in the admin center trying to figure out, where is this particular control. So this is a simplified view specifically for non-technical audience so that they can get their job done at ease. And they're also going to come up with a simpler view like this so that you don't spend your time navigating around the admin center trying to figure out where this particular control exists. Okay. Then the admin center experience with Microsoft Team. This is really, really cool, right? So this is what I'm talking about. How about having that complete admin center experience as an app within your Microsoft Teams, so that maybe you're somebody who is working as an admin or in support. Now, every time a new request comes in, you have to open your browser, go back to the admin panel, and do all the settings that you need to do. So how about having this admin capability within Teams itself as an app? Now, that's what this simply means. Of course, not the complete admin experience has been shifted here. At this point in time, it is very minimal, such as your adding users, password resets, Office licenses, Microsoft Team settings, so on and so forth. But in the future, Microsoft has a plan to almost bring in all the controls and capabilities here so that you could work within the Teams console itself. Okay. Improvements to the service health dashboard. Of course, we all know that this is the place wherein you can go and see if there is any incidents or advisories or something which has been reported by Microsoft, and if Microsoft engineers are working on it. Now, what they made here is earlier you have to have to do multiple clicks to go there, but now they just made so that the service health dashboard shows up exactly on the service health dashboard homepage. So right there itself, you have a proper categorization of what are advisories, what are incidents, so on and so forth. It's just a better view altogether. Then we have the dedicated administration and administrative units management. For some reason, I don't understand why they keep it as a new capability, because this capability existed at least almost 2 to 3 years back. Now, what this means is, right, and I'm pretty sure a lot of your customers might have asked you this. And if you're a multinational company, and from a security standpoint, your customers might have asked that, hey, maybe people who are in Japan, I want only the Japan IT team to control those set of users. And for people who are from North America, there should be, it is like more or less like a OU kind of a thing, wherein you can put people into a bucket and only the people, the admins, you can designate those admins, and only those admins get to manage those users in Azure AD. It is like putting people into a bucket. It is something like this, right? Where you have an admin assigned to all North America users, and it is only this guy who can reset passwords, assign licenses, or do anything from an admin standpoint for these sets. Same goes for EMEA, same goes for LATAM, and this was always there. I don't know why it has been told, or that this is something which has newly come up, but this is what administrative unit means. You can go ahead and create one, and you can configure all of these things. Okay. And now the next thing is we also have revamped license utilization. This is nothing but now you can also assign and remove licenses from the Office 365 admin mobile app itself. Okay, quite a user friendly to use. Then we also have the informed network routing. I'm not sure whether a lot of companies are using this, but it is all about trying to bring in a third-party SD-WAN solution, so to optimize your network connectivity, from your endpoints to different Microsoft 365 applications, right? This is really useful when you want to measure the performances, or if the people are talking about network utilization, they're not getting a proper connectivity. Specifically, we are all working hybrid these days. A lot of Teams calls and Teams meeting exchange, a lot of emails back and forth with heavy amount of attachments is going on. So this is really going to help you to take care of all those network issues. And this is something where you can go and make use of this. So just go to your network connectivity here, settings, and here you can choose the SD-WAN solution, add SD-WAN, and at this point they have introduced Cisco vManage as this, and then you can choose it. Okay. Next is MS Teams admin updates. So first, a very important thing here is Microsoft has introduced Azure AD Cloud Shell also to do Teams Teams admin management, right? In the past, we could manage Teams admin from the admin panel, or also from using PowerShell. And now, in addition to that, they have also introduced Azure Cloud Shell, which was a very useful tool for Azure admins. Now the same capability is being rolled out to Teams also. This is how it looks like. Then we also have multi-language team meetings invite control. Now, maybe you're creating a Teams meeting, but maybe the person whom you're sending it to is somebody who's sitting in Netherlands or Germany, wherein they speak a different language altogether, right? And if at all you want to have these different languages in there, then you could create that now with the Teams policy. And this is how the the UI is going to look like when they do. This is how the end user experience is going to look like. And at this point in time, you can choose only two languages. At a later point, I believe Microsoft will be introducing some more languages, but it is just two languages for now. That's what Microsoft is rolling out. Some more important updates from an admin standpoint. So Teams Admin Center search. Now from the admin search for Microsoft Teams, what I'm talking about is this particular search capability which existed in the past, right? So that was not a really great. So now you could just, I think you can have a proper search control which is going to roll out, and you can search across every single thing. So a proper search capability will be brought up here. Okay. And then we also have priority accounts collaboration experience monitoring. So what this means is some VIP users in your company, right? And if you want to push them as a priority account so that you could monitor those accounts every day, so that because these are the people who need extra care, and from your organization, if they are telling that these are the VIP users, so you want to have real-time monitoring over them, like if they're saying that their call is not going properly, or maybe you want to monitor their call constantly, if there is any network drop, so those kind of things can be done here. Then we also have admin app discovery. So this is where you could manage the complete app. You can also look for apps. So this particular page here, manage apps. Okay. And that is a proper screenshot of this in the next slide, wherein they're going to give us a proper interface that can provide a category list to enable admins to browse distinct categories of apps that are sorted by popularity, so that you don't need to go figure out which app is where based upon popularity. So you can choose like what are the apps that you want to publish, or what are the apps you feel that, I mean, this is not something which I need for now. Then we also have user request for apps. So in the past, if at all you've been somebody who's managing Azure AD, you can see wherein people were requesting, they'll see an app, they can request for that app for user consent, and then you'll get an email, or it'll show up on the Azure AD panel. Now something similar to this for Microsoft Teams also, wherein user can request for those apps, and it'll start showing up in the Teams app marketplace. So you as an admin can see that, and if at all you feel that that is something that you want to allow, you could do it, or you could talk to your user and follow whatever IT process that you have in your company. This is also coming here. So that's about it, and these are some useful references that we want to share with you, and these are those important updates that we feel that will matter the most for you. So with that, thank you so much. It's been almost close to 90 minutes, I suppose, and now is the time for question and answers. If at all you have any question and answers, you can put it in the chat or unmute yourself and start asking those questions. Thank you.